This message is for the country folk that think it's a good idea to burn your trash. Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and you know that we design ecologically sound systems that are going to be good for you, good for the environment. And I hear a lot of people say, I don't want to send my trash to the landfill and simply get buried, so they instead burn their trash at home. Here are some simple facts to know about burning your trash. First off, it's very bad for you and the environment. Burning trash, at best, even in a barrel, you're going to get a little over 425 degrees, could get up to 800 degrees depending on what you're burning. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, I don't burn plastic. If you're burning the envelopes that mail comes in, those windows have plastic in them. If you're burning any household trash, burning paper, organic material, and plastic materials creates a toxic chemical waste, a concoction of just the nastiest chemicals that you can get. That goes right into your lungs. Burning trash at home in a barrel or burning it anything in other than a professional incinerator, you are basically making the trash disappear. It's no longer in front of you, but it's in the atmosphere and it is going to be in your lungs. Now the reason is because these materials need to be burned at high temperatures above 1200 degrees. Now, unless you've got a stainless steel barrel, most steel barrels that you're burning in at 1200 degrees would be pretty much melted, somewhat dissolved. Because the temperature is higher than the melting point of these old barrels. Now, there are some barrels that can handle higher temperatures, but my point being is that when you burn trash at temperatures above 1200 degrees, preferably 2600 degrees, you are going to be higher than the melting point of a lot of the containers that you can have. But it is necessary in order to chemically bond the materials in the plastic so that you end up with carbon dioxide and water as your exhaust. Now, before you get there, you're going to end up with what's called gases. These are flammable gases. So if you've got a retort kiln, you can actually turn plastic, trash, and other household materials into carbon. But again, it has to be under pressure, without oxygen, and ultimately at very high temperatures. Now, you might be asking, how can you burn something without oxygen? Well, these extremely high temperatures break down the chemical bonds in the materials and cause it to gasify. That gasification process is where the materials basically get cooked so much that, like if you're cooking some bacon in the oven and you leave it too long and you end up with those black crispy strips, whole house smells like bacon. That's really great, but that's the gases coming off the bacon, and you get left behind these carbon strips, which is actual just carbon. Well, that's because the temperature and the time and the low levels of oxygen have actually made a type of carbon. Now, that carbon's not very clean. You need zero oxygen because the oxygen makes a bond with the chemicals coming off of the material to make a synogas. And if you have too much oxygen, then you're not going to be able to reach the temperatures that you need in order to completely eliminate the materials. Now, again, chemistry tells us that you're never, even if you have an incinerator, completely eliminate the materials. Now, there is a process called hydrothermal carbonization where you're burning household waste, a dumpster full of materials, in a container that pressurizes the materials far beyond atmospheric pressure, removes all the oxygen, and then ultimately heats the materials above 2600 degrees, which then turns the plastic and carbon into flammable gases. Those flammable gases come out and they are ran through a condenser. The condenser will remove something very similar to diesel fuel, which is a long chain hydrocarbon. And then, of course, the gases, which are flammable, are dried out because there's water vapor in here as well. That's hydrogen, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. And then the gases are burned off in a generator to produce electricity. If you don't have all that stuff and you're just burning trash in a pile in your backyard, then you're making a problem. Bag the trash up. I know it's easy just to make a pile in the backyard and light it on fire. It's all nice to look at fire and stuff. But ultimately, if you don't have a retort kiln, which is the basic, and I show you in my Making Carbon videos how to use a retort kiln, but then again, I would only put organic material in it. The plastics in a retort kiln are not going to get hot enough to break them back down into elemental materials. But again, If you're just putting a pile together, you got a burn barrel or something like that, then you are making pollution. That is definitely pollution. Now, again, if you've got a lot of organic materials, you can compost organic materials. So that's going to be your vegetable scraps, the bones. It's going to be your leaves and grass clippings and straw, waste materials, animal manures. All that stuff can be composted, and it doesn't require any heat. Now, it's not as much fun to watch because you don't have the fancy flames or anything, but you can go out and buy a little camp stove or a little kind of campfire and enjoy a campfire. But don't put plastic in it. Don't put your household trash in it. All of that stuff, again, needs to be burned at a temperature higher than 1200 degrees. And you're not going to reach 1200 degrees unless you have a device to burn it in. Now, you can have a system that has blowers. There are home scale systems or systems that are used in industrial applications, but none of that is what you got in your backyard when you're burning your trash. Burning trash is going to give you lung cancer. It's going to give you respiratory issues. It is damaging your lungs. Now, without going into the chemical formulas, cardboard plus plastic in a low temperature environment with plenty of oxygen is going to create hydrocarbons and other types of pollution like soot, the soot that comes out of a tractor trailer, except 10 times worse, and you are going to be breathing that, and so will everybody else in your neighborhood. It damages plants, it damages the environment in general. It is a dumb thing to do. Now, think about the ash pile that's left over. Because the plastics and the paper and all this household waste hasn't been burned at a high temperature, it leaves behind heavy metals. It leaves behind other PCBs and plastic chemicals, these forever chemicals that everybody's talking about. And now you go put those ashes on your garden or you leave them in your lawn, it starts getting bioaccumulated into plants. Folks, I'm not trying to scare you here. This is a public service message that burning trash in any form outside of an industrial application, outside of an incinerator that's monitored by the EPA, outside of a trash disposal facility is a bad idea. Now, you could build a hydrothermal carbonization system at a small scale. It is not difficult technology, but again, if you don't have a specialized piece of equipment disposing of that waste at a very high temperature, under pressure, and without oxygen, you will end up with trash. Now, again, you might be saying, how does something burn without oxygen? Well, again, this process that reduces trash and turns it into energy, which is used in many countries around the world, and some places in the United States, actually turns the waste into biogases or cyanyl gases, and then burns the gases in a generator, because it's kind of like a natural gas, and turns it into a fuel. It uses scrubbers to take the moisture out of the water vapor, and all you get left is a little bit of water vapor and some carbon dioxide. It doesn't produce as much carbon dioxide as a vehicle might. It doesn't produce a lot of exhaust waste. Overall, the system is net zero, but it requires the investment in specialized equipment. It's not worth it at your home. Now, if you're sending the stuff to the landfill, maybe that's your only option. A landfill is a better option than burning it because the county is under strict EPA requirements for what we call leaching. So they're going to put it in a space that is well managed. They're going to inspect it periodically. They're going to compact that trash into the landfill itself so that the compacted trash takes up less space. They're going to do things like in some areas, they're going to pull out the recyclables. Now, recycling is kind of a scam because a lot of things don't go to the recycling, but metal recycling works. So you might take your metal materials, your cans, your aluminum cans, that kind of stuff, and if proper facilities are available, you can have all that processed, so you've reduced the amount you send to a landfill. And at home, you can recycle your organic waste using composting, and we've talked about that. And now all you have left is the basics that you send to the landfill. Okay, please do not burn household waste. If you burn household waste, you're going to spend 10 times as much on the lung cancer or the upper respiratory issues or some kind of weird problem you're going to end up with in the future, because burning trash is stupid. Burning trash actually impacts your brain function. It does all kinds of nasty stuff. You wouldn't want an old-fashioned incinerator in your neighborhood. You wouldn't want a landfill next to your house. So why are you doing this in your own yard? The last point I want to make is that you can support activity. So the hydrothermal carbonization has been around since 1919. It is a very functional system. It's used in a lot of industrial facilities. And it's actually, again, I think it's Finland and a couple other countries have done this instead of landfills. You can advocate that your city or your town use this method to dispose of waste because, again, the exhaust is carbon dioxide and water. There's no methane from the decomposition of materials. There's no the flammable gases are taken off and used to create electricity, so you have minimal exhaust from that. The diesel fuel that comes out of it, and it's a product similar. It's a low-grade diesel fuel, can be used in vehicles. It can be cleaned up and used to power things, so we don't have to pull fossil fuel out of the ground. And by the way, fossil fuel is a misnomer. Fuel comes from long-chain hydrocarbons, which can be produced under pressure, under high heat, and without oxygen. So this machine is simply mimicking the functions of nature. So let me summarize. Do not burn trash in your backyard. Don't make a big old trash pile and light the thing on fire. It only gets rid of the material. If it's organic waste, you can put it aside and you can use it to compost. If it's plastic waste and other things like that, you want to make sure it gets either recycled if the facilities are available or send it to the landfill. Now, I like a good bonfire like the next person, so let me close with this. It's just nothing wrong with stacking up old building materials and wood and stuff like that, as long as it doesn't contain metal, as long as it doesn't contain plastics, as long as it doesn't contain household waste, and you make a nice little bonfire. As you've seen in a number of my videos, we used a forest mulcher to clear out some areas in the woods, and I told the guy to be rough with it. I told him, just clear as much woods as you can. All this extra scrap laying around, I'll take care of it. And you know why? Because me and the kid will take the scrap wood that's left over from the forest mulching, and we'll go and have a campfire and enjoy ourselves. You've probably seen some of those videos. So you can still burn things and have fun with fire, but do not burn trash. Even when you're on a camp out, don't throw your plastic bottles in the trash can. Pack those out. Don't throw the stuff. It leaves behind waste. I know the permaculture manual talks about processing your trash at home, but again, it has to be done under a high temperature environment with pressure and capturing that gas and processing that gas so that you end up with basic elements. You essentially have to molecularly break down the materials. And if you don't have the proper equipment, then your old redneck fire in the backwoods is not going to effectively get rid of trash. Just take it to the landfill. Have somebody take it to the dump for you. Save it up until you fill the pickup truck up. I know you guys got an old pickup truck sitting in the back that you've been throwing trash bags in. Okay? Instead of throwing them in a pile in the yard, throw them in a pickup truck, throw them in a tote, take it to the dump all at once. You got an old trailer or something. I don't know. I'm done with it. Do not burn your trash. There's no way you're going to burn it at a high enough temperature that you're going to be able to make it safe for you and your family, and especially for the kids. This burning plastic, burning household waste is a guaranteed asthma for your child. I could put a bunch of links below for studies and stuff, but no, it's not. Burning trash is just a dumb thing to do. Burning trash is a dumb thing to do. Anyway, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and this has been a public service announcement about the alternatives to burning trash in your yard and how you can improve your health and prevent chemical toxins from joining our environment with some simple systems. And if all you got is a landfill, send it to the landfill. The city they're under EPA guidelines to make sure they're doing a good job with that stuff. And definitely don't dump it in the woods. Anyway, I'm on a roll. I got to go. Thanks for, ask your questions below. Thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.